Hello, I'm Ron Miscavige, and this is Life After Scientology. And we bring you another episode, and this is going to be very enlightening. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this. But before we get into it, just let me take care of a little business. And the main business is this. If you are not a subscriber, could you please do so now or today sometime? Subscribing when you do, hit the little bell. That way you'll get a notification when we have a brand new interview or a video out. I do other videos, as you all know. And if you don't, you can go to my website, The Real Ron Miscavige, and see what else I do. At any rate, while you're there, if you also care to support this show and support the ongoingness of it, you could become a Patreon, or you could make a one-time donation through PayPal, and you can see how to do it when you're on my website. So much for business. Now I have your favorite guest back, and I say that because by statistics, she's actually your favorite guest, and she's wearing a gorgeous necklace. I think this is representative of the Titanic, isn't it? It's beautiful. What is it called, Karen?
Titanic. Yeah.
It's what?
It's the Titanic necklace called Heart of the Ocean.
It's beautiful.
A gift from Jeffrey.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
He has good taste. Let me tell you. He has good taste, and you're fortunate to have a good husband that way.
Oh, he's my rock.
I know. Anyway, obviously, I got Karen de la Carriere back, and as I say, by statistics, she is your favorite guest. So why don't you kick it off? I know what you want to start with, so please introduce it.
You did a very good interview with the Sun newspaper, Ron. And do you know the Sun newspaper, according to Wikipedia, has over 100 million visitors every 30 days. So it's a tabloid, yes, but is the civilization reading it? The people clicking and reading what it says? They are 100 million in 30 days. So you did this great interview with them, and I'm reading it, and I see the counter statement from the cult of Scientology, denying it all. They denied, Ron, that you even had PIs for a couple of years stalking you. Now, Ron, I'm going to let you tell all this, even though anyone can Google Ron Miscavige, the Sun newspaper, and pull it all up, just like you told the paper. But what I want to tell you is there's a transcript of the private investigators telling West Allis police. You've got it on audio. I've got it in text. Take it away, Ron. You tell me.
Well, I'll tell you, it's beyond belief. This is truly beyond belief, because if the readers of that newspaper or anybody goes onto my website, therealronmiscavige.com, you can listen to the transcript, not the transcript, you can listen to the audio of the two private investigators, Dwayne Powell and his son Daniel Powell, being interviewed by the West Allis police. That's Nick Pye, who is a West Allis lieutenant right now. He got promoted. And Ricky Hankins, who is an alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agent. And they took them in because the father was caught with a rifle that had a silencer on it. That was the main reason he was taken in.
Ron, just backtrack a little. They were snooping in the neighborhood. Somebody called the police. They were acting suspicious. They opened the trunk.
This is what happened. I mean, it's the father was going to buy a house across the street from mine. The Church of Scientology was going to buy them a house so they could just look out the window and spy on me. And he was snooping around, looking in the windows. The neighbor called the cops and said, listen, I think there may be a drug dealer here. So Nick Pye went out and he confronted him, and the guy started giving him some lip. So Nick said, hey, listen, you're under arrest. Can I look in your car? And the guy had a blocked out van. He went to it, and that's where they found the 5 license plates from different states, the 5 handguns, a stun gun, 2 rifles, 1 with the silencer, and 2,000 rounds of ammunition. You know, I mean, normal things that a guy would do in the neighborhood, walk around with all that shit in his trunk. Anyway, they took them in, and you can hear that interview on my website. So I say to the Church of Scientology, I'm not really Ron Miscavige. I'm another guy with the same name. Does that make sense? Does it, listen,
The main theme here is the Scientology is a pathological liar.
they are. If they open,
lie. So after paying $12 million to these two private investigators to stalk you for 2 years, which these investigators told the police, confessed it all to West Allis police, the cult then denies.
Well, it's, if it were somebody else, I'd say it's unbelievable. But since it is the Church of Scientology, it is believable, because to lie is to tell the truth somehow in their minds. No, I'm serious. And it sounds like I'm trying to make a play on words. I'm not. To lie is to tell the truth. It's almost like out of George Orwell's book, 1984. All right. And, whatever the things were in that book. But anyway, yeah, go to my website. You can hear the interview. And I invite any of the people who have seen or read that article by the Sun. And by the way, the Mail picked it up now, and they're running the same article. Go to the website, listen to the interview with the private investigators. Okay?
Yeah, so that made me think, the cult just lies and lies and lies. So this show, let's look up some of the prime lies.
I agree.
I agree. Blow the lid off these lies. This is supposed to be a church. A church resonates with words like honesty, trustworthiness, humanity, beliefs that are true. Truth is a big thing connected with. So this is a cult that does the reverse. Lies. I think, Ron, we should pin as the top comment. I've got the transcript of these private investigators briefing.
Good idea.
I'll print the transcript. You link the audio. The audio will work. I checked.
Yep.
You can link audio. So you do that and I'll do that. Now, let's take up the next slide. For 25 years, the cult of Scientology coerced abortions. Coerced them. There was a guy, I have videos of him called Gary Weber. Not the Gary Weber who was in the Guardian's office, the other Gary Weber. And he would take the ladies to buses every Thursday. Would be just packed, the entire bus of young girls in their 20s forced to have abortions in the Clearwater, Tampa, St. Petersburg area. Every Thursday, truckloads, every Thursday for a year or two. He was the bus driver.
Right.
Now, where you were at Int Base, Gold Base, they did it so frequently and so much that Planned Parenthood, which actually gets money from the government and does these abortions wholesale, they even couldn't get over and couldn't believe that all these women came with the same story. It didn't matter if they already had kids or if they never had a kid. They all quacked the same story of needing this abortion. And Planned Parenthood asked too many questions and the cult stopped going to them and used other abortion clinics. So there's been at least 20, 30 women who've gone on record, on video, with Tampa Bay Times and others talking about their coerced abortions. Scientology denies it.
Well, they even put out a statement, Karen, and I have it here, and I could read it. Let me just do that. Okay, this is a statement put out by the Church of Scientology. The church does not pressure, coerce, or compel anyone to have or not have an abortion. These are an individual's personal choices as provided under the law. like anyone else, Scientologists and members of the Sea organizations decide for themselves. That's a flat lie. That's it goes back to what I said. To lie is to speak the truth. It's unbelievable, but it is believable because there it is. That's the statement they put out. And for them to say that, and look, I've done well over 90 interviews with people who have been abused by the church, and a lot of these women had been forced to have abortions. Just go on to my interviews. You'll hear other people telling a similar story, and well, that would be normal for them to deny it and say it is not true. Okay, it's unreal, but here we are. We're talking about it.
Well, Scientology is known as the religion of cult that does abortion. I mean, it's if anyone just wants to go to YouTube and put in Scientology abortions, you'll get video after video after video. And you know, they've lightened up on it a little bit. They don't coerce it so much, but they use friendly persuasion. You're still not allowed to get pregnant. Do you know what Claire Headley said on video? That you were shamed by being sent to Old Gilman House if you got pregnant. You were incarcerated in this, right at the west end of the property was this ghastly building. It looked haunted and spooked. In fact, it was haunted. They've torn it down in shame because so many people talked about their imprisonment.
By the way, that used to be referred to as OGH.
OGH, yeah.
Yeah.
So Old Gilman House, OGH. And if you got pregnant, you were sent there in this horrible, horrible, ghostly building and separated from the crew. You were disgraced.
Yeah.
Pregnant. So getting pregnant to have a child and bring forth a child into the world for Scientology was a criminal act. Literally, it was. And you know why? Can you please explain why?
Well, yeah, because they said that having children was a deterrent to you doing your job, that it would be a distraction and you wouldn't be able to carry on the job of getting the technology out or disseminating it or building up organizations, because the technology and the application of it was going to save every man, woman, and child on the planet. And this has been the plan since the early 50s when L. Ron Hubbard started this. And it was to clear the planet. And so far, I've said this many times, I don't think they've cleared a cul-de-sac. And in like 70 years, you would think there'd be some more action on those lines, but there isn't. That's the truth of it. And the lie is that they're going to clear the planet because it ain't happening. If you had 70 years to do something and you've done so little, you've got to think to yourself, if you're a rational human being, well, wait a minute. If somebody says they're going to do something and in 7 years they've done so little, do they really want to do that? Or what do they really want to do? I'll tell you what they really are doing: collecting a lot of money from people on a lot of projects that have had little or no success, and that's another line. We're going to get further into that, okay?
Yeah, it's just absolutely shameful. This is an entity and movement that quacks about the engram, the moment of trauma, the moment of pain and unconsciousness. And then they corral these people and herd them into a bus to go have anesthesia and a trauma and then force them to lose their baby. Let's just put the pause button here and look. Here's these early books of Hubbard calling abortions and prenatals the source of the complete trauma and the person getting screwed up with baggage. And then hypocritically enforce, most girls were in their 20s, force them to abort a child. It's the complete reverse of most religions.
Yeah, I know.
Want you to have huge families. They're looking for all the little moments in the next generation that are going to belong to there are many, the Catholic Church, I don't know the status right now, but you weren't even allowed to use anything that
No, back in
no
the
protect.
early,
Couldn't use
back in the,
protection. Men couldn't use protection because the Catholic Church wanted lots of children. In
right.
Scientology, they
Yeah,
want you to kill off the baby before it's born.
it was considered a sin if you used like a contraceptive or anything. This is
Yes.
back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. That was bad news. The pill was a no-no. You couldn't take the pill.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah.
Pope was against it. They were outspoken. No, have children.
Yeah. So whereas most mainstream religions, they call it a blessing. If
Yeah.
God had they believe that if you got pregnant, this was a gift from God. So the Catholic Church actually denounced, this is one of the big issues the Catholic Church have had with Scientology. They call this spitting in the face of God, killing off a baby that the Catholic Church believed was from the grace of God, a pregnancy, a new life.
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible. And then lie about it.
Yeah.
Any of their lies, you said something interesting, Ron, about babies were a nuisance and would stop production. Production means work like a slave and bring in more money for the church.
Yeah.
Right? That's why they cut out family time and stuff. So Scientology is very much opposed to family. Very much. They lie with their quacking fluff and froth little commercials of how family oriented they are. Family oriented. Give me a break.
No. They're not family oriented. And I tell you something, they are, it's like a slave mill where you work your butt off for almost nothing and no rewards, and many times being demeaned as an individual, your capabilities being made nothing of, and in an effort to get you to want to please the upper echelon. Look at me. Look how much I'm suffering. Look how hard I'm working. Aren't I a good boy now? In other words, to get you to take on that attitude, so you're willing to work your ass off for next to nothing to please somebody. But it is the way it goes. And a person who's in that position for a long time gets to that state of mind that that's how they live their life. You know that.
Well, yeah, and we were fools because we believed in our eternity was at risk if we fled, and finally we reached a threshold and we walked out of there. But it was hell.
It was. And I'll tell you, could we get into the Dianetics, what he said in Dianetics?
Oh, let's take up the lie. This lie is promises by the cult. They've got to give you reasons why you should give them gobs of money. They've got to pitch and sell stuff to you. Please read, Ron, what they sell and pitch for giving them gobs of money.
Now, this is back in Dianetics. That's the first book is referred to, okay? But in that book, it says, and talking about the application of this technology of the engram and all the other accoutrements that go with it, okay? Says, arthritis vanishes. Myopia gets better. That's bad eyesight. Heart illness decreases. Asthma disappears. Stomach functions properly, and the whole category of these go away and stay away. Listen, if you look at the news, people reach the highest level, not just Dianetics, which was like the stepping stone into Scientology. They reach the highest level and die from cancer. They die from heart attacks, just like anybody does. There is no protective shield that is put around them or something that is going to make them live longer than anybody who lives any other type of life. It's such a lie that I guess if you say a lie long enough, some people will believe it. Listen, I believed it. You did too. Come on. We both are guilty of that, right? Mea culpa, and listen, I did videos saying how wonderful it was for people to listen to L. Ron Hubbard's lectures. I got people to join the Sea Org. I was of that mindset. So I'm not talking about something I read in a book. So this to me, what I just read to you, that's not a true statement. That is not a true statement at all.
The flim-flam men coming to town, flag wedges. Flag means Clearwater hierarchy, top buildings there that service, and they promise the sun, moon, and stars. I read that they even, you just read, they cure asthma. I've never known one person in decades of working the technology lines that ever got cured of asthma. But you're right, people just drop dead, and they drop dead in their 60s. They don't even live 75 years old. Both the famous Scientology Dr. Megan Shields and Dr. Jean Denk, they were both dead in their 60s. Megan was like 60, I don't know, 60 something. So there is no elevated better health, because people get cancer every day of the week. Long-term Scientologists have GoFundMe pages because so-and-so just died of cancer. So to come anywhere near saying that Scientology cures cancer is hogwash. Or asthma, or myopia, which is Scientology has never cured eyesight one way or the other. Eyesight is organic, to do with the physical body, and Scientology is not. So these are all lies. But you know what bothers me more, Ron, are the lies they give out about the L's. L10, 11, 12, you know, Iris, and L10, 11, 12 CS.
I know, and let me tell you something. If the people watching this don't know this, Karen was one of the highest trained auditors on the entire planet. We're not just talking about maybe in Clearwater or in Los Angeles or something. Out of all the auditors in the world, she was one of the top trained technical people to be able to deliver the highest level of Scientology on the highest levels of the bridge, as they say, the road to total freedom. But get that in mind. So this is not someone who read about it.
Thank you. So what the lie that they pump out in order to rig, and they charge $100,000 for these 3 counseling rundowns, meaning specific programs. And they promise that you will be exterior, meaning outside your body, with full perception, stably, that's without interruption, permanently. You're going to be back of your head, looking down like a little satellite, and you won't be in your body. They promise this, talking about it in loose language, but this is ridiculous. I audited these L's for 7 years. I CS them for years. I never, ever had one case that left their body permanently, stably with perception. It's hogwash, but they lie. And somehow they found a button. People are willing to pay for that. They think, oh my God, I'd love to be, you know, in this floating state. As it's almost a permanent LSD trip where you're not, you know, outside floating around, and you got all these, you're not stuck in your brain, you're not in your body, people buy that pitch, and it's a lie. It's a flagrant lie. Flagrant.
And they do buy it. They do buy it.
Who had 3 L's, went back home and killed it. There was a Bob Borowski, is that his name? He went back to New York, shot himself in the head and killed, Bob Borowski, Hope Borowski's husband, just had his 3 L's, went home to New York and blew his brains out. I know another guy who went home to Las Vegas, went back, checked in a hotel in Vegas and killed himself after 3 L's, immediately after 3 L's.
Wow.
So, you know, I know all the horror stories and the dark secret places, but the lie, we're not trying to just say the L's are nonsense. There are some very provocative, good questions in them. but we're talking about the lies, the
Yeah.
over-promising a result, which causes the person to think, well, I never got that. Maybe I'm just got too much baggage.
Yeah. No, and I'll tell you something, and maybe I'm wrong, so I'm gonna run this by you. I think L. Ron Hubbard would promise something, knew he couldn't deliver it, but figured out later on I'll work out how to deliver this. That's just a guess on my part. And that there you go, just in his desire to make more and more and more money,
Yeah.
would do something like that, thinking I'm going to work it out later. And of course, he never did. What do you think?
You know, it caused a big division between his senior CS, David Mayo, and himself. David Mayo coached him and gently, not reprimanded him, but gently rebuked him in a way to say, don't overpromise. If you just said something simple like, we really could make your communication a lot better. We'll make you feel comfortable communicating. But Hubbard was flamboyant. So he had to promise the sun, moon, and stars. He had to promise just extraordinary nonsense. I wish I had printed this off. It's Hubbard himself who, in one of their spam magazines, Free Winds, whatever, it's a glossy picture of Hubbard sitting at his desk and saying, I never let anybody off the Apollo and let them go back home unless they were fully stable with full perception outside their body. This is Hubbard.
I saw that, by the way. I saw that. And I know one person who did it, and he thought maybe it was only me he didn't go exterior, but wouldn't talk to anybody about it.
Well, the thing is that is such a lie. I lived and breathed the Apollo and the public that came on and off the ship. And nobody reached that state.
Yeah.
So Hubbard embellished and exaggerated. Maybe he felt he would get more adulation if he was the source and founder of such miraculous technology.
Yeah.
Recently, this week, somebody dropped dead, a very dishonest dentist called Dennis Noby in Miami. And he was stealing from the US government, billing them multi-million dollars for fraud.
Wait, did you say he dropped dead?
I'm sorry, he was a chiropractor.
Wait, did you say he dropped dead?
Yeah, he dropped dead. He dropped dead this week. Tony Ortega couldn't believe it because he'd gotten arrested. He was charged.
Right, yeah.
And again, he'd had everything. We looked him up. He had audited his BTs for years. He did OT3. He did net for OT. He audited all these BTs, net knots. And he went home and he ripped off the US government, left, right, and center. And then he did illegal PP, the personal businesses were given money by the government.
Right.
Right? What is it called? PPE? Oh, it's got
PPE. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So he applied and he got a nice boatload of money, claiming he had all these stuff. And he was spending it on himself.
Wow.
So he's ripping off even. So this is a person. This is just typical of the church. They've got a lot. He was giving gobs of money to the cult. In fact, he was keeping Miami all alive, this chiropractor. But ill-gotten gains. Look where he was getting his money from.
Yeah.
Stealing my taxpayer money to the US government were stolen with his rip-off fraudulent billings of people he didn't even see that he was billing for. And he did all kinds of other rackets with credit cards. He was a pug. He was a criminal. It's laughable that Scientology tries to call the likes of you and me criminal when they give air cover to a horde of criminals who they get money from.
Wow. Well, I'm going to tell you something. They also said that they're the most ethical group on the planet. Now, we're getting close to the bewitching hour here, and I know we're not going to be able to cover that in the time we have left that we have allocated for this interview.
Oh, okay.
So I would like to end it up on one note, though, and that was this. And this is the lie regarding L. Ron Hubbard when Earl Cooley come out on January 27, 1986, and said that L. Ron Hubbard was in perfect health and he dropped his body to do higher level research, and his body would have been an impediment to him. Now, this was I was at that. Yeah, you were there too. And I'm going to tell you something. You couldn't make up a more bald-faced lie than that and come off with a straight face of this guy is so honest, he would never lie to us. Do you want to tell what the truth of that was?
You know, the exact sentence he gave was, Hubbard was sound in mind and body.
Okay.
He really wanted the audience to think LRH had a very sound mind. He did not. He
had a stroke the week before he died.
He had two strokes, and the third one killed him. But it wasn't just that. He was totally losing it mentally. He ordered his caretaker, his contractor, his in-house
Sarge.
Mr.
Sarge.
Guy,
Yeah.
Sarge ordered him to build an electric shock machine that when he switched it on and picked up the cans would give him a violent, if not suicidal killing, a kill shock machine. You know, when Marty Rathburn told me this story, we used to meet at a hotel near the airport. I just had a sort of collapse of belief. I'll tell you why. In all my 40 years in the cult, I was embedded with the thought that the reason psychiatrists were diabolical was that they electric shocked patients. And that electric shock was the worst of the worst that you could do to any spiritual being.
Yeah.
Jammed in all the attached spirits that clustered them and on and on and on. And electric shock was always painted as a heinous crime. And for me to sit there and listen to Marty Rathburn tell me that Hubbard ordered this electric shock. Now, the reason that this was all true and not some fantasy was Sarge, in real time, as this was happening, was in a complete panic. He was just a caretaker. And he wrote to Janice Grady and to Terry Gamboa, messengers, because he'd known them. And he wrote to them in real time that Hubbard is asking this shock machine, and I'm getting pressured by Annie to build it. He reached out at that time. So this wasn't some story he later invented for Larry.
Right.
He wrote,
right.
I've seen the course. So it happened in real time. So the lie is double lies here, Ron. Help me. Either the lie was that electric shock wasn't that bad after all, or that Hubbard's mind, after all these years and being the source of some technology and commands and all, then wanted a suicidal, death-killing meter that electric shocked environment.
Wow. And the upshot was that Dr. Dink gave him an injective of, I think it was called Visitrol. Is that the right pronunciation of that?
Antipsychotic things to keep him, yes. Visceral is antipsychotic. He had several, when they did the autopsy, they noted his butt had several injection, and visceral was in his bloodstream. So an antipsychotic medication is not something you give someone of sound mind. So
No kidding.
he was lying. But
Yep.
what a ridiculous thing to say that he didn't die, he dropped his body to do higher level. The whole thing was spin, absolute spin.
I know, but when you get somebody on that stage who's an attorney, who was there in the Portland trials, the guy had some authority with the Scientologists in general.
Yeah.
So you think he would not, in his wildest imagination, tell that whopper of a lie, but he did. I was there, and so were you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. We covered some of the things we wanted to cover. We're not done. There's going to be part 2 of this.
We've got at least 2 more shows on their lives.
I'm telling you, man, this is.
I'll tell you. Uh-huh.
Yeah, you got to stay tuned to this station, and please, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe and hit that bell so you'd be notified. And as I mentioned earlier in the program, if you'd like to contribute, you can become a Patreon, or you can make a one-time donation through PayPal. And I will tell you, I don't necessarily enjoy doing these, but I do feel it's my duty to enlighten people. And I have special people on like Karen who really do the job here, to enlighten people as to the dangers of getting involved in the Church of Scientology. And if you're in and you're wavering, just walk. Just don't spend another day there. Just walk away. Start your own life. Just disconnect from being part of them, and live life. And maybe you'll end up a lot better off than you would have if you stayed around for another 10 years. You'd have more money. You'd have more happiness, probably more health and everything. That's all I have to say. And Karen, would you like to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing. It really is okay to pursue truth. If truth is very, very important to you,
Yep.
truth is something that drives you forward to learn more truths, to fight lies. It's an honorable thing to be on the side of truth.
Yeah.
Have a quest for truth. What we're doing in these little 3 shows on lies is to say that the cult lost its way. This is not truthfulness. This is lies, spin, cover up. It's just lies. It's a lying entity. But it's very okay if you watch this and you feel, ugh. It's a good thing. It's honorable to seek and want truth. Bye-bye, everybody.
And I'm not going to add another word to that. I'll see you on the episode. I'm Ron Miscavige. This has been Life After Scientology. See you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye, Ron. Bye-bye.